Hello, I'm Cynthia Riley, and this is Jeannine Bramwell, and it's June 20th, 2023. And I'd love to talk to you about some of your experience and memories about First Congregational United Church of Christ. So first I want to just start off with, what are your first memories of our church?
Well, that's interesting because Jim and I lived in the Black Forest until 1974. And when we moved to town, we had two very small children, and I looked around for a church. We had gone to the Black Forest Community Church, and two of our kids were baptized there. And when we moved to town, I went looking for a church and just came by here. I was brought up Methodist, so I was looking first for a Methodist and was unsuccessful. Walked in here, sat in a pew in the back of the congregation, and I just had this feeling. It was immediate and very soft, no drama, but I just felt really good there.
Wow.
And I thought, well, if they have a choir, maybe I can come here. Well, so that was my first impression. That was it, just a really good feeling in the sanctuary.
Awesome. And so when did you become a member?
Well, that was in 1974, and so I joined the choir right away. I talked to the then preacher, Jerry Jordan, and talked to John Shoemaker, who was the choir director at that time, and I started within the next month or so.
Great.
Coming to choir practice, and the children and I came to church then for years, and not until 1982 did we join. I think it was 1982 that we joined. I was going to look that up. So we've been with the church since the 70s.
Wow.
And joined in the early 80s. And Kerry and Ben grew up with their first children's
Director? Or?
No, the first children's message that they dealt with Jerry, and Fay Gallegos was the education person then.
Okay.
And so they remember the paper bag sermons from many years back.
Great. That's awesome. Can you share any other of your first memories?
Well, in
getting
the choir, Ellen was born in 1976, and so she was tiny when I was singing in the choir, and you know the choir loft was a loft then. It was in the front, and just behind the organ, and
so it was quite a ways back into this?
Yes, it was, but it was we sat perpendicular to the congregation.
I see. So very kind of British style.
Exactly.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So Ellen is this tiny little thing, and maybe a year and a half, 2 years old, and so she she walked up with the other little kids to the. So she was walking. Maybe she was 2. Walked up with the little kids, and had the children's message, and then I'm sitting in the choir, looking down at her. That's how I reared my children, I could give them the looks and
give
stuff.
Give them the evil eye.
Yes, exactly. And I saw that she was looking too puzzled She didn't have any idea what to do. She wasn't crying, but she was clearly upset and wondering. And so anyway, I just walked down to the floor and put my arms around her and just stayed there with her until the person who was leading them to their classes, until she came. And I just turned her over to the woman. And I remember that so much because Ellen was so frightened and confused.
Oh.
And I didn't want her to have any bad feelings about church.
Sure. Are there any other memories you'd like to share?
Oh, yes. Let's see. Jim was, I'm trying to think of dates, but anyway, gradually in the 80s and 90s. Oh, Jim ran for the state legislature. In 1982 or 4. And at about that same time, I had been checking in with him about, joining the church, being officially a part of the church, because our feelings were, just the children's and my feelings were very much with the church, and so I also wanted it official when Jim was ready. So along about that time, he thought that it would be okay for us to join the church as a family, and that's what we did. And I think Jerry was still preacher, and when shortly after we joined the church, Jim started coming to the breakfast.
The B&B?
B&B.
Men's B&B?
Men's B&B. Bran flakes and what? Bonding and bran flakes.
Yes, right.
Jim White used to call it. And that was early on Thursday morning. And so he must have retired, or he couldn't have come on Thursdays. Oh, I'm rambling again. He joined Men's B&B, and Dave Seifert, along about that time, also asked him if he'd, kind of help out with the forum. Help make coffee, be available if Dave happened to be absent, things like that. Well, Jim and Dave were together on that project for the next 20 years.
Oh my gosh.
And it was very fulfilling for Jim. He could do something, he could be helpful, he could not just stand around and shoot the breeze, but talk about things.
Right.
And so that was a big thing for him.
That's wonderful.
He surely enjoyed it. Also, he was Joseph one year with Dolly Eager.
Oh, wow.
And yes, he had a good experience with this church. This church, let's see, our son was married in this church. We celebrated our 50th anniversary in 2010 in this church.
Oh.
And that was with Ben Broadbent. And
did you have a reception, or what did you do to celebrate?
We did. We got remarried. We got
you renewed your vows.
Renewed our vows in 2010 and had a reception. Carrie and Ellen arranged and did everything for the reception.
How wonderful.
It was just beautiful. The service was beautiful as well, and I think that I shall never forget Ben Broadbent's message, because it had to do with the choice every day is new, and
Yes.
our marriage is new today, and is so there was all this continuity that he brought into it.
How
it was
wonderful.
just beautiful. And Jim was memorialized in this church 5 years ago, almost exactly 5 years ago. And that was simply beautiful. I just couldn't get over it.
That was beautiful. So you had something you were starting to say about Godspell. Do you want to talk a little bit
Godspell.
about that?
I only wanted to mention that it was quite an experience for both of us, for all of us. In fact, the whole cast were so moved by it. Carol Fields, Susan Holman, so many, and the youth. See, the youth group, most of the youth group were doing Godspell as well. So there was an intergenerational thing, which we have been talking about recently, and it was lovely experience.
And you had said something about you and one of your daughters.
Yes, our oldest daughter, Kerry, has a beautiful voice, and we sang that Godspell song, By My Side, By My Side. And I think we sang it for another church too, and I cannot remember the context, but when we did a program down in Pueblo, so, in the late 80s, I believe, Carrie and I sang that song. So
that was a very meaningful moment
it
for
was.
you.
It was for me. I think it was for Carrie too.
So what brought you to the church was just then that you saw the church and you came in and you loved
gave it a try is what I did.
That's fantastic. So who were your early friends and
the choir
colleagues at the
people?
church?
Yes, largely the choir people. I don't socialize very well. That is, in general, socialize very well. I do very well one-on-one, but any more than 3 people, I get confused and nervous. Anyway, so you asked about friends at church. Gosh, the parents of all the youth group, the Halls, the Gehrungs, the Carol and Susan, and so many people, I can't remember them.
Right.
And those were in the early years. Also, I belonged to a committee which brought me in touch with Alan Severn and some people with that. I was with the Minister Advisory Committee. Yeah, and we had it was a kind of a liaison between the congregation and the minister, although it wasn't like official. We didn't.
Sort of like a pastoral relations.
Yes, exactly.
Group.
Yes, good for you. Pastoral relations, that was it. And it was very helpful to me because I was seeing then the other side of the pulpit, so to speak.
Right.
I was hearing a little bit about how it felt to be a minister.
Yes.
And discussing things with the congregation. So that was very helpful. Also, I became, when Andrew Baker was choir director, this was in the early 2000s, I started working with him as, and here, very unofficial, music librarian. I helped him with the music. And then when Richard Raub, when Andrew left, Richard Raub and Jim Clamp successively led the choir, then I kept helping them. And when Frank Shelton came in, he said, by all means, stay. So I was choir librarian. It became more and more official as the years went on. As a matter of fact, I was taking care of that music from about 2002 to just a couple of years ago.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, 4 years ago. 4 years ago. So, and that was very meaningful to me because I not only sing but play recorders, and that got me involved in the Madrigal.
Yes.
So I was in the chorus for Madrigal, and in the recorder consort for the Madrigal, and loved it. It was a wonderful thing we were doing.
And you've been in the Madrigal for many years.
Yes, I think I missed one. I think I was in Vermont with my daughter Kerry when she was ill, and I think I missed that one in 2012 or so, 11 or 12.
So, yes.
But all the others I've been in, and they just have been the greatest fun, as you know.
They are. They are. So what would you say that you value most about the church and the community?
Well, I've got to say, the wind. I can't forget to mention the windows, those incredible stained glass windows.
Yes.
But what you're really asking is for the inside things. And for me, that's community. This church represents community in as much as I've ever seen in my 85 years of life.
Oh.
And I loved my hometown church, very small. And I very much enjoyed Black Forest Church, and they were big on community. But this church, how they stepped up, how we all together stepped up in various different kinds of both crises and just hard times, hard times and sad times. And boy, I felt that we were really pulling together.
That's wonderful.
And especially in recent years, pulling together when it really seemed kind of chancy, kind of dubious. I don't know.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
We had financial crisis, which I personally thought was handled very badly, and all the dynamics of a crisis like that, meaning the emotional fallout, really affected people. We lost people. We gained people. It was incredible. It was like nothing I've seen. And then when Lyn and Betty Lynn got married, before that, when Lyn and Betty Lynn got married, there was all this hoorah about that, about that experience, and
both negative and positive.
Both negative and positive, incredibly positive, because given some time, we worked our way through that, and I felt we didn't avoid very much. It's easy to avoid tough conversations. But not very much in that case. And then with this recent business with the preacher and losing my beloved Mandy, I came close to leaving. I came kind of close to leaving. I was I was on the fence for a long time. And after all those years, 40 years, it's surprising to me that I really felt that way, but I did.
Yeah. I'm so glad you stayed.
I am too. And we have worked through that. We're still working through each
right.
thing as they come up. And I am so proud of our church.
Excellent.
I love our church.
Oh, I can tell. So we have a couple of minutes left. You've done great. I just want to ask you, do you have any advice you'd like to give the congregation looking forward?
One more thing about what I admire,
yes,
and that's the
great.
way people take initiative, the way people,
Yes.
individuals step up as well as the community.
Yes.
Okay, and then advice, I'm not sure. I would only say stay open to people. Stay open to new experiences. I don't think that I would want to change anything, but my advice would be learn from what we have gone through, and I say especially recently, but all the way through. Remember the people who have gone before, and how they had to pull through some things as well.
Yes.
So that's about it. I love this church.
Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so.
Well, this has been so great, Jeannine. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your patience with everything.
Oh, it's been wonderful.
When I say allow for people to be themselves, I don't mean in those obvious ways that we've been talking about, race and gender and all that. I mean the individual in their idiosyncrasies.
Yes.
I stumble around in my talking, and I know I do that, but I go ahead and talk. And I trust you people to accept that, stumbling around. Because what I'm trying to do all the time, and many people do this, is trying to sort out my thoughts.
Yes.
Yes. So I think that's about it. My family has benefited so much from this church. And they feel it too. They think about it as well. They ask about people in the church.
You've had so many of your major life events wrapped up in this church.
One was our first son died when he was a day old. 25 years later, Jerry Jordan gave us a memorial service at the place where his plaque was, and just the family. And it was fairly short. It was maybe 20 minutes, but it was such an experience. Talk about closure. So the purpose was to help our children understand this Joseph. His name was Joseph. As an older brother, although they by far never knew him, but he was here and he was part of the family.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. Thank you
and
so
I am
much.
finished now.